a climate action resolution so that all of our curriculum incorporates climate action and instruction. So I've been extremely proud to be with the district now for 6 years, as I said. I'm extremely proud of the work that you're doing in Forest Hills. I'm really proud to be the person that kind of brings that together in a lot of ways. And then I'm also extremely proud of our new superintendent, who I'll introduce, Dr. Joe Malushny.
Again, my name is Joe Malushnik, Maluchnik. I just wanted to take a moment. First, I want to say thank you for this time. Thank you to the community, the families, for allowing me to serve this district. I'm looking forward to it. It's been a fun, exciting 4 months. Learning a lot about the district right now. I'm putting together strengths, weaknesses, and things, ways that we can get better over the next 4 or 5 years. Just a little bit about me, just so you understand my background. I've been doing this for 27 years. I've been in rural Pennsylvania in Bedford, Somerset County, also in Greensburg, Salem, and so I've been suburban school districts. And then I served as a principal of Wilkinsburg School District. Luckily, I live very close. I'm in the Highland Park area. These last 2 jobs are the closest jobs I ever had, and I specifically seeked out these 2 school districts. I'm at the age and time in my career where I feel like I can pick and choose where I want, where I want to go, and this district was one of those districts. I love the diversity. I love the school culture. I've got to see the facilities over the last 4 months and assess the facilities, and tremendous, probably the best I've ever seen by far. So the technology, the infrastructure, the cleanliness of the buildings has been unbelievable. So excited for that opportunity. Some goals I have, obviously, is community engagement. My goal was to hit all 12 communities and see everybody face to face. And also, I want you to know this isn't a one-shot deal. If you need me to show up, if you need me to be somewhere, I'm right down the road at home and at work. So I can be here. Safety and security. I was also the safety and security coordinator in the Wilkinsburg School District. So I was very adamant about making sure that we have the right technology in place, people in place to ensure our kids are safe and secure. And that's probably from my military background. I'm also been serving 34 years in the United States Army Reserves as an enlisted soldier and as an officer. So I feel very good where we're at with safety and security. Can we get better? Obviously, yeah, we can always get better. Until we have 0 incidences, we always have room to get better. And the last thing is also, of course, student achievement. Making sure our kids are growing, our kids are learning. But also, most importantly, too, what I love about schools, public schools, is the opportunity for co-curricular, extracurricular activities. We give it's nice for our kids to be able to be creators and innovators, and it's not just all about math and science. So I'm looking forward to these opportunities to continue to build our fine arts programs, all of our programs, work with Dr. Wilson, and continue to make sure we're the #1 school in the state. That's my goal. And as a former coach, my goal was always to be #1. So there's 500 school districts out there. Until we keep climbing and we hit that top spot, we have room to grow socially, emotionally, and academically. And that's always been my goal as an educator, to ensure that we leave a positive legacy in this school district too. Better than we found it. And I feel, hopefully in the places I've been, I've had an opportunity to turn around a district in the Everett School District when we were getting ready to be taken over from the state. Learned a lot from a great leader that I worked under there. And I think we can, some programs and some practices and things that we can put in place in this school district, we can continue to climb that and set the bar. And that's the ultimate goal. So thank you. I appreciate this time. And again, if you ever need me, don't hesitate.
Sorry, I have to be a rural person. Did you give your address?
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
My address is in the Highland Park area, 1341
Oh,
Everton Street.
we were told you were a Forest Hills resident.
He's the Forest Hills resident. He's the
Okay.
Forest Hills resident. I just wanted to come speak on behalf of the school district, and because now I'll be right down the road for the next 5 years. And as I said in all my conversations, if we're not better at the end of my 4 to 5 years here, then I shouldn't be here year 6. So we want to do what's best for the kids, for sure. Didn't know if anybody had anything else, but I wanted to just say thank you for the time. Looking forward to meeting people in all the communities and in these next few months, next few years.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, then moving on, we have Mr. Waldman. Is he able?
Yes, hi. I'm not sure if the sound is working. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
All right, thank you. So I first want to introduce myself. My name is Dove Waldman. I live in Toms River, New Jersey. I'm a self-storage and multifamily developer. And I'm here today not to get anything approved, but just to get preliminary feedback on my project that I am looking at for Forest Hills. I sent a PDF that has the project details. I just want to make sure that everyone has it and everyone can see it. All right, perfect. So a little bit about this project, and then I'll be open to any questions. I am looking at this site already for the last, I would say, 3 years. The site has had some difficult challenges regarding environmental issues with the history of it. We are finally at the stages where we just have to take a couple of more months, invest some more money, and get the site approved. It should be environmentally clean. There are like another 3 levels of testing, of soil testing that we'd have to go through. Once that's done, we could go ahead and get the site ready. Before me and my team are going to go ahead and invest that type of money to get the site clean and available to be able to build, I would just my intention today is just to get the feedback from the board, because our next step would be to get this project approved. And if we see that the board likes this is something that we are going to get some sort of report on, then it's going to be worth it for us and make sense to go ahead with the next step, which is getting the site clean. This is a self-storage facility. So I currently own and operate a couple of self-storage facilities. One of them is in Erie, Pennsylvania. We are looking at 100,000 square feet of a Class A self-storage facility. It should be managed by Extra Space, which is the largest self-storage operator in America. They are a REIT. They have high standards in terms of security, aesthetics. They have a manager on site, a couple of managers. So we're looking to build a Class A self-storage facility at that site, which is gonna be mainly drive-up buildings, but it's possibly gonna have climate control indoor units as well. And it's also gonna have a couple of parking spots that we'd rent out as well, like our RV parking, and sometimes people want to store vehicles. Self-storage is usually a very quiet asset. It doesn't get lots of traffic. It's usually just a quiet and secure site. I think that's about it. And I'm just curious if the board has any questions that I could shed some light on and how the board feels about it.
Order. Are we allowing questions and answers in this public comment session? We normally don't do that.
I just know that Mr. DeCrosta was in contact.
Okay,
Would it be okay if he speaks
I
then?
would refer that to the attorney.
We'll get that. It's okay for us to do that.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. Dov, thanks for coming on to Zoom tonight. We had a productive conversation last week. I would wondered if you could talk about your intentions with the Atom Smasher and what we talked about.
Yeah, sure. So the site currently has an atom smasher over there, which the challenge, the primary, the big challenge is getting it moved, because it's very big. Uh, me, I'm the developer. My intention is to purchase this property and develop it. I do care about it, and my ultimate goal would be to preserve it on site, to put away some extra capex, and hopefully with some help as well, kind of designate a spot on site, that we could maybe chain off and kind of display it. We're just going to have a custom steel builder build something under it to hold it nicely, and then get some signage that people can have access without accessing our site. But the current site is big enough. It's around 10 acres. So I think taking a small area on one of the sides would be possible. It would just be some costs, but it definitely is in one of my intentions to get it done. The other option would be to donate it locally to a church, or not to a church, I'm sorry, to a university or a museum. There hasn't been much effort in that sense. I spoke to Gary, to the owner. They spoke to them about it, but real effort could be put into that as well. But ultimately, I do think that the easiest option would be to keep it on site, which we are willing to entertain.
Okay, anyone else? Thank you very much. Sorry, okay, there's no more questions. Thank you. Good night. Is that okay? I'm sorry. All right, moving on then.
Thank you.
Mr.
Thank
Maston,
you.
welcome and thank you for coming.
Okay, some of you may or may not know, my name is Frank Mastandre. I'm the chief of Woodland Hills EMS. I started working EMS in Forest Hills Rescue 8 back in 1997. Was hired as an employee in 99 and took over as chief in 2015. In my last 10 years as chief, probably the most memorable has been the last 4 to 5 years. I also sit on the Allegheny County EMS Chief Board, as well as the Allegheny County EMS Council. We've been starting to ring the alarm bells more and more regarding the funding and the viability of EMS. As of right now, in 2015, there was 67 EMS services in Allegheny County. Currently, we're sitting at 32. So we have in 10 years lost half of our ambulances in Allegheny County. In Allegheny County, every year we have 260,000 annual responses, and that averages to 712 per day. With us, all of us chiefs sitting down and comparing information and data, currently our cost analysis for reimbursement on average in Allegheny County is $392 per trip. Our cost per trip is $541. So every time we go and take a trip, we are a net deficit loss of $149 per trip. 88% of the calls we take pay less than the cost of providing services. And out of that 270,000 calls we do, almost 30% of them are treatment, no transport, which means we go to your house, we check you out, you don't want to go to the hospital. Unfortunately, for those 30%, we cannot bill anything to insurance. So all the costs for readiness, response, fuel, employees, we do not get any reimbursements for. So far in 2025, 4 services receive $0 from any of their councils or boroughs. 12 services are receiving anywhere between $3,200 and $99,000. 6 services are receiving $100,000 to $200,000, with 8 services receiving 250,000 to 1.3 million. Now, this also does not include the city of Pittsburgh, because unfortunately, with them being a tax-based large, it would not skew the results too much, because in the city of Pittsburgh, you do not pay for an ambulance. However, in EMS in Allegheny County, we are over 78% self-funded. When you look at the numbers across the board, funding for fire in Allegheny County represents $30.5 million. Police is over $217 million, while EMS sits at $3.6 million. While we take approximately 40% of all the 911 calls through Allegheny County. So there's a large discrepancy between our funding and what we are actually doing. One of the biggest things we've seen, as everyone else has seen, I know when we talk about increase of costs and everything else like that, ambulances in 2021, you get an ambulance for $206,000. That price right now is well over $250,000. I actually recently got a bid for a new truck for $345,000, and that's just for the ambulance. That's no equipment inside. That's no stretcher. That's just the truck. It's actually extra to have it painted. The stretcher system in the back, again, when I started, the stretchers were $500. Now we're at $73,000 for a stretcher system. Total, our costs have climbed from $254,000 in 2021 to over $327,000 nowadays. That's almost a 30% increase. To put on top of that, our heart monitors. One heart monitor for every truck, $60,000. CPR Lucas device, that's the new devices out that we have that does 100% perfect compressions. Those are $22,000. Auto event, which gives the patient oxygen when they can't breathe on their own. That's additional $5,000. IV pumps to give life-saving medication. It's additional $4,000. And then when you add up all the other additional soft supplies, we're talking about $15,000. So on top of that $253,000 ambulance, I got to throw in another $125,000. I know in the past, we've had some discussions in regards to, what can Forest Hills do? What can our local communities do? We've had some things back and forth. The one thing that we have done with Chalfont in the past was they do a millage of 0.5 on the property taxes. In exchange for that, we do not bill any for anything. It doesn't matter if you don't have insurance. It doesn't matter if you don't go to the hospital. It doesn't matter if you didn't reach your deductible and the whole bill gets kicked back to you. We write off that whole complete balance if they pay that millage. Also, it works for Chalfont a little bit better, but other districts we have to look at it because Chalfont is generally averages about 8 calls a month. But say we're all busy on calls and our truck is not in service because it's on other calls. The feature area comes in, they charge the patient, we reimburse the EMS for the patient. So either way, they actually 100% free. Another subject we've been talking about is us coming up with a certain funding amount that we need. And between the 4 boroughs, kind of break it down to percentage wise of call volume. So say, for instance, just using rough numbers, and please don't hold me to this, say we need $600,000. Okay, so out of the $600,000, the 4 boroughs, if Wilkins Township is at 40% of the calls, Forest Hills is at 20, Churchill's at 10, then it gets broken up that way. However, with that model, we would not be able to write off all of our expenses to the patient. The patient would still be responsible for any of their co-pays and or deductibles. But as we're looking at right now, is like I said, EMS is not a viable solution. It's not a viable business model. We have been working with the Ambulance Association of Pennsylvania. Recently, I was up in Harrisburg to push towards a reimbursement schedule from insurance companies. It went through the House pretty quickly. It doesn't look like it's going to pass the Senate. Unfortunately, it was probably the last thing we could say to save EMS. EMS is circling the drain. Like I said, 10 years ago, we had 67 ambulance companies in Allegheny County. When I remember in 1997, we had 145. So it's only getting worse. Bottom line is we do need funding. We do need assistance. We need that help to help you. Now, is there any questions anybody has, or even any other ideas that you'd like to push forth?
Mr. Lawrence?
Yeah, as you know, I represent Forest Hills on the WEMS board. And my goal is to represent our interests, but I think there's no question our interests in WEMS are congruent. I don't see any conflict there. Tonight is not the time for us to decide what's appropriate for us to do in terms of funding. I think the most important thing in the presentation tonight is to get some idea of, and I think this would be helpful, maybe you come back with some numbers at some other point, be helpful for the board to realize in real numbers what your budget is, what you're spending every year. And I think it's rather illuminative for you to tell us the money you have sitting in the piggy bank when that is done. It's a strikingly small number. And I think it'd be helpful for us to understand if you were funded so that you could sleep at night, which I think is the goal. What would be the absolute number to function under reasonable best practices, knowing that you're a nonprofit? And then we can, amongst ourselves, discuss, all right, how should we fund our share of that? And also discuss what we perceive as the fair share amongst the other boroughs. So there's some absolute numbers. I'm not asking you to give that to us tonight, but that's something you could give to us in the future, when time permits. We're in the budgeting season, but I think we need to, in the past, we've thought about and been more like, well, what do we pay per capita and stuff like that? And are we in parity with the other boroughs? Yes, we need to be in parity. We all pay the same. But I think it's more important for you to come to us and say, all right, if I'm going to sleep tonight, this is the amount we need to function. And if I give us that absolute number, and then we can discuss amongst ourselves what's the appropriate parity, A, to divide among the boroughs, and B, what can we afford to do? We don't have an endless piggy bank either. So I think that's really what we are asking you to do. So if I could ask you to come back, just email us, the borough manager, some numbers like that. I think that'd be the most useful thing. And that's really all we were asking you to do tonight. And I appreciate that.
I have sent Seth, lately, we've been doing a more in-depth, report to the boroughs as far as what our billing numbers are, what is showing back. I know he's gotten those. If you ever have any questions, please feel free to reach out on all that.
Please.
I received them today, and for both June and July in the SharePoint are actual folders with all the information that Mr. Bay has been sending us for review.
Okay. And then just to end this, I will have to say, I don't know how long I've been in this board. Is it 3-4 years? Something like that. I would have to say, watching the way you've managed it and the board has managed it, excluding me, you're doing a great job with the facility, what you have, you're doing a great job. I think I believe in the last year, we've done some interesting things to improve the conditions for the workers, including money, which is always nice. But we did reevaluate the PTO program, which is one of those non-money things that does help retain employees. And I think some other management things that have made people happier as employees. So I do want the council to recognize that it's my perception that WEMS is well run.
One thing I will say is pretty much, WEMS has been built up from everybody who are community residents. I myself live in Murraysville now, but I grew up in Churchill. I went to school at St. Maurice. So a lot of the times when I'm responding here, I'm going to, friends' houses, their parents' houses, things like that. My captain is also Forest Hills boy, grew up here. We all have deep roots, so we all deeply do care about the communities that we serve. That being said, whenever, we bring in new employees, Just because you have a number doesn't mean you're gonna be riding on my truck. I want to make sure that you are the very best at what you can do and that you treat people with the most respect while you're doing it. There's been plenty of times where I've had people come in and say, hey, yeah, you know what? Sorry, this isn't working out. Why? Because I don't want you coming to my parents' house. I mean, they don't live here anymore, but even still, that's the same. Like, I don't want you coming here. I want the best of the best for Forest Hills, for Wilkins Township, for Churchill, for Chalfont, for Braddock Hill. I want the best for Woodland Hills EMS.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
One question, if you don't mind. I've been in the local government space for a long time. I know that emergency management services have been sort of threatened for a long time financially. Is there anything above and beyond what Councilman Lawrence just spoke about? Is there anything that Forest Hills can do to support the efforts of our EMS and EMS systems broadly to try and get this legislation passed? Because what little I know and what you spoke about tonight is the loophole with the insurance and the limitations that your companies have to be able to draw down adequate reimbursements for your services is a big part of the problem. And certainly, my hope is, although I don't know where our Senator Costa sits on this issue, I think, the legislation can do some things as well to address these important local services.
I will say, whenever I went up there, I met with all of our local reps. I think within 5 minutes of speaking with them, they were all on board. When you talk about this legislation before, it's basically a $9 charge to every insurance carrier. Unfortunately, their budget is a heck of a lot more than the Ambulance Association's budget. I think right alone, our total operating budget is like $3 million. So yeah, the insurance industry has a little bit more say when it comes to it. And as far as Mr. Costa goes, I can't tell you of a better friend that emergency services has had in this area than Mr. Costa. Other than that, pretty much, I don't have a problem with any of our local governments. They've all been very supportive. I understand, everybody comes to you with their handout and things like that, and you guys do the best you can, and I do appreciate that. But I mean, at the end of the day, the bottom line is for EMS right now is that funding.
I understand. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? All right, walk back again. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else for public comment? Did you? Okay, so you didn't come to speak? Okay, well, thank you. Okay, thank you so much. Then I'm going to move on to the president's remarks. Usually I don't have anything to say, but tonight I wanted to let everybody know that the grant committee met and we zoned in on what our MS4 compliance. We hear about this, but we have 2 new council members. So I'd like you to know we have a deadline, which is for 2026. And we've been applying for grants over and over and over again. We haven't received one yet, but for us to be in compliance next year, we need about $5 million. And then after that, there's a new round. So we're doing our best. We're working with our engineers. Unfortunately, in years past, we had bad information before LSSE became our engineer, and we were not in compliance and didn't realize it. So just know we're working very hard to make sure we get some of this money. But I wanted the new folks to realize that. Okay, moving on then. let's start the meeting. Mr. Lawrence, anything for operations and policies?
Thank you, Madam President. There's nothing specific. What I'll just pass along is where we are. In the July meeting of operations and policies, most of the discussion was issues that we need to address, which we will probably go into specific discussions next week under ops and policies. So there's nothing specific, no proposals coming out of operations and policies at this point. Some of the things we are discussing now is perhaps revising and clarifying the terminology in the public comments section that you just heard a little while ago. One resident did have some concerns about lack of clarity or his perception of lack of clarity on that. So we are looking about to what extent we can provide, I hate this term, but more transparency. It's not as easy as it would seem to be, but we're going to look at that. Second, as you know, there is an opening in the administrative office for a position. Recruitment is never one of those fast things. The effort of the borough manager and the HR committee has been to review the job description, do a job design and analysis to make sure it is what we need now, not what we needed when we filled the position 3 years ago, 4 years ago. The next step, it will go through the labor attorney to understand its status, first union and FLSA, and then it should be ready to go out there for recruitment. Other things that will be on the agenda on Thursday. Couple years ago, we passed an ordinance saying it is against borough regulations to feed the deer. We didn't think about the fact that people may be feeding other critters that shouldn't be fed. Not talking about the wild birds and things like that, but or the squirrels, they get into the bird feeder. But so we're going to have to look at that, see what we can do to clean that up and cover some areas we don't without causing trouble. That's everything that will be discussed on Thursday, and that's all I have to report. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Lawrence. Moving on to finance, Ms. Lewis.
Thank you. So at our last meeting, the Finance Committee discussed a few things. This was the second time we had talked about facilitating and creating a process where the borough manager can submit payments via ACH transaction as opposed to check writing. Our bank, which happens to be the bank that we use at work, has a mechanism where you can integrate checks and balances to make sure that no single person can authorize ACH payments, and you can create your rules related to that. As I'm still getting oriented, I'm not exactly sure the process, but the Finance Committee has discussed that. And I don't know exactly what we need to do as a council, but I think I defer to my colleagues, but I think it's our recommendation that we move forward, put those things in place such that we can begin paying certain things via ACH transaction instead of everything by paper check. Yep.
I would have to know what the checks and balances are before I would agree to this.
They can echo, we can make them, Council President, we can make them whatever it is we want them to be. I know that the borough has multiple check signers. The ACH payments can be, we can create a policy where they're limited to certain things, paying the electric bill, whatever. There is an app available through the bank where payments go in and they have to be authorized by multiple parties before the payment.
Parties, is there anyone from the borough authorizing this, or is this the bank?
Borough. It's users of the borough, it's check signers.
I think that the question is more of, in order for us to put together a plan to present to full council. Is there a step that we need to address, like there's a resolution that needs to be passed, or there's an update to some ordinances that make it available to use ACH payments? Because I think what Ann's saying, and I will say, having worked from experience in these types of things, I think everybody will be fine with how it will work out, because you can set those levels. When you put in the ACH, you have to put it into a batch. It has to go through an approval process that we could set up, and it could be 6 people on council if we wanted it to be. That would be crazy, but I'm just saying there's plenty of things to solve there. I think we just need to know, how do we move forward with bringing something like that? We have to, like, how do we vote on that? What's the mechanism to do that is what we need to know.
I think we're voting on the concept of it, but we need to assign it. Is it your committee? Is it another committee? Who's establishing the rules? That's what I see is needed. Is there anybody else with a question on this or comment?
I mean, it seems to me that an ACH process would mimic the check signing process. So it's just an electronic version of what we do in paper. So I think if that were reviewed closely, I don't know, it seems like maybe operations or finance could then pass on their recommendations to operations to make sure everything is in order, and then we approve it or not. I'm not under the impression that we would need an ordinance or a resolution for this process, would we?
Beth, are you aware of any resolutions of like limiting payment by the?
No.
Okay, not that I'm aware of, but we can confirm that there isn't anything lingering in the past that would need to be.
Because that's what you're asking, right, Rick, or Mr. Frostbrink?
Well, I think I was hoping to paraphrase for Ms. Lewis, which I shouldn't do, but
Absolutely, Ken, you did a good job.
Yoki had his, okay.
I think it's up to the finance committee at this point to prepare a proposal. I mean, that's what your job is. You come with it and we'll say that's a silly idea, or it's not a silly idea, or it needs clarification. But at this point, you don't need a resolution to come up with an idea.
All right,
So
we can definitely do.
That's my thought. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I'm sort of echoing what Mr. Lawrence just said, but the purpose of this meeting is to set the agenda for voting at the council meeting, and not to have discussions about how we should do it. I mean, I think we should come to this meeting, or every committee should come with a proposal for the business meeting. So this would be better discussed in the finance committee, and then come, as Mr. Lawrence said, with a proposal.
Super, thank you. The next one is in fact a specific proposal, and that is I think all of council has received a few emails related to the tree inventory project from the Tree and Shrub Committee. You have in your packet the email from Mark Hybaugh, who is the chair of that committee, as well as very detailed summary of their evaluation of the proposals that they received. They also attended our committee, and we listened to their recommendations. I had a follow-up conversation with Mr. Bacon regarding that, and the committee would like to recommend and move forward awarding that project to Bartlett Tree Company, I think is what their proper name is, for their bid of $73,360, which is the recommendation.
Problem with that? Anyone else?
On the agenda.
I just ask, okay, we'll have it on the agenda for a vote on the 20th, but then since this isn't, it's funded by a grant, could we move forward then with the contract process, or do we have to wait? Mr. Ayers.
But I believe we need to wait until it's approved to actually draft the contract. Or we can start working on it, but we can't sign anything.
Agreed, agreed.
Mr. Bacon?
Just as one comment on this, this is one of those rare situations where we have several options that are within the grant amount, and it is professional services that we're seeking out. So we are not stuck with the lowest bidder, and I think that the Tree and Shrub Committee has a lot of expertise that they're putting behind this decision. And I think we are making a very solidly advised decision going this route.
Good, thank you.
So, given Mr. Baiocchi's comments, I'm not sure that this next item is one that is appropriate for this meeting. However, I do know that it is something that council has been discussing and has interfaced with several committees, which is the discussion of how to move forward with the paving projects. Yeah.
Addressing me,
Well, you,
but I can't see behind me. Usually I, call a person's name out or something. My concern is, I appreciate Mr. Sivak's concerns, and I realize that his road has degrade. But then, how do we know? So it went from a 5.9 down to certain parts, a 3, I believe. But since we only get in October, all the roads, who's to say the others haven't degraded as well? And my recommendation would be, I feel really bad for him, but until we see what all the roads are, I just can't, I'm representing everybody like all of us are in here. And what if there's worse roads, which I believe there are? So I'm not for that right now. Thank you.
is it my job? Mr. Bacon?
This also is kind of discussed as part of the Public Works Committee, which just happens to have the exact same 3 members, just in a different order. And I think we need to have some sort of plan as council, because the time is limited on this, and it's very likely that we are going to have some leftover funding in the budget for this year's paving. And I think we need to have some sort of prioritization understood for how we can use that. And I will say, I drove down Decatur on my way here today, and it is definitely getting worse. It is severely degraded. I don't think we have a worse section of road in the borough that gets actual through traffic. And I think we should have some sort of motion, or whatever appropriate, to at least have a plan on hand, pre-approved, for the contractors to be able to fill out any extra money in that budget. And have that on hand, or it's not gonna happen.
So I believe we did have a prioritization process that was in place. The problem with this road is that the grade that it was given was, I believe, 2 years ago, and it's degraded terribly since then, at least in the one section. So I see both sides. I understand President Martin's concerns about making it go through the regular process everybody else has. However, this road's in dire condition. So, do we make exceptions? I don't know. I was really disappointed the last time we were here talking about the grade of that road, only to find out, we thought it was, well positioned, and this is why we didn't approve it, only to find out that it would probably be graded differently now. So, I'm not sure how to proceed on this unless we can expedite sort of another review through our engineers quickly. But, I see value in a process, but I also see value in, pleasing our our neighbors and who have taken the time and effort to come and speak to us for their concerns. So it has been only one person. speaking to us about this problem. I haven't seen a community effort around it, so I'm not sure how to react. But I too went down that road. It's really bad. Has it been patched since, by the way? I can't remember. I mean,
The problem is it's a cement road. And
right.
so I mean, I defer to the engineer, but you put asphalt in it and it works for like what, 3-4 days?
It's, it has limited, success, with hot mix.
So, we've been kind of called on the carpet in terms of the evaluation process and keeping up with it. So now we have to deal with that. So that's just, I see both sides, but I'm a little concerned about, others coming forward and say, well, why didn't you then, reevaluate our road and do our road? Because we didn't come and talk to you. So those are my thoughts.
This is purely informational, and this is our fault for not getting this distributed among council, but we actually did get officially updated reevaluation on Decatur from the engineers since the last time we all met. We got it in committee. Maybe Mr. Brett can speak to that.
I think the borough manager shared that with the whole council.
Yeah, we did go out and relook at the road and evaluated the sections, took pictures of it. The joints have degraded over the last 6 months. And the rating's under a 3 at this point. I think it was a 2.8. So make the list. It would have been at the tail end, but it would make the list. So
Been at the tail end, you said?
yeah, but it would have been on the list. We would have bid it.
If I could just respond for a sec. I guess the only problem with that is we have a new grade for this road, but where are all the other roads in that group? So that's just my reaction. Thanks.
If I might just speak for a moment on the public works side of this, because this is something that I actually did discuss with President Martin on the phone, that if we're only reviewing the study at the end of the paving season and updating it for the next year, and then that's what we use to make the decisions on, where it's every other year, we're making decisions with bad data. So my suggestion that I had mentioned to President Martin was, in public works, we need to have a discussion with the engineers to understand, is there some reasonable standard deviation from year to year that an asphalt road is going to degrade this much versus a concrete this much? I know that's a very broad generalization, but in some way that we can have better information when we are making these decisions is my next step for public works. But if I could step back a moment and speak on the matter with Decatur. My opinion in why I have taken this under my wing is not so much to appease a resident that's coming to us with an issue, but is more because I feel that I was placed here to serve out the remainder of Mr. Watkins' term. Mr. Watkins had initially discussed this with the residents of Decatur and assured them that it would make it onto the discussion for paving 2 years ago. He got sick. I was put in place. It got missed for a year. I'm sorry, it got missed for a year. I was put in place, and I'm just trying to help us look for ways to rectify that situation, because it seems like it's something that we kind of dropped the ball on. I'm not advocating to fix an issue because a resident has brought it to our attention or to give any preferential treatment to any street. I just think, and as I've brought up in finance, we don't have a clear understanding exactly at the moment of, is there going to be excess material? How is that going to be allocated? And I will tell you, I brought up the question of, if the question was fixing a safety issue on Decatur, which I think we're all saying that there are issues there, versus my suggestion was potentially leaving the plastic speed bumps in place for an additional year. Was that something that we could look at if we needed to look at it? So that's what I brought up. Again, not sure where we discuss these things as a group if we don't do them here, but that's sort of my opinion on this entire situation.
Mr. Bioki?
Yeah, there's several moving parts here. Number one, do we have a quote from the paving company of what it would cost to repair that
We have
section?
an engineer's estimate.
You have a quote from the
I
paving.
believe it's based on the paving company's quote.
Yes, the project is bid with unit prices. So we went out, did measurements. I estimated the cost based on what they bid and what they were charged the borough to do. I also did look at the contracts as they're bid. And my belief is we will finish under budget by about 10% from what you awarded. And that if we let the contractor finish the initial work that was awarded, you'll have enough funding to do both the speed humps and the work on Decatur. But we need him to get this first group of work done, and then we can come back through committee. I've asked him for an updated schedule because he's only going to be in here about a month with the first group of work. And then the work on Decatur is concrete work. So it can go well into the fall where you don't have issues like we do with asphalt, getting asphalt here, things like that. So a little bit of time, then council could have a better informed decision and we could actually complete both things. I know pretty early on in the process where the quantities are falling. Council can have an informed decision then.
The concrete is going to be removed? Or
We're gonna do spot repairs on it. I reported at the last meeting, two of the sections are extremely steep and slabs are in good shape. There's joints that are bad or where utility work was completed in the past. Those patches have completely fallen apart because they were small. So it's spot repairs, but the road will be put back the way it was originally, but not replacing a whole road. It's only spot repairs.
so unlike some of the other areas that we've done where they were concrete, they were milled, and then they were covered with asphalt, this will not be done that way.
Not these, but two particular sections. One section could be done that way. I'm just very nervous with the current mixed designs. We have the very top part where the complaints are the most. That is extremely steep, that where coming up it even in wet could be a problem, where today the concrete gives an extra grip. Roads that's that steep, even today, if we put them in brand new, we go to concrete in many cases because municipalities end up closing them in the winter if they get a little bit of frost on them because they get too slippy. I mentioned at the last meeting, and I went back up and down it a bunch of times, and I feel wholeheartedly the way the mixed designs are right now. I don't want to see you have a problem because that's a street that is used readily. It's not like an alley that the residents have a choice. There's a lot of residents that use that road. I think every time I've been on it, somebody's came one way or the other because there seems like there's just a lot of traffic on it. So
in their opinion, there'll be significant savings enough to do the patching and to do the permanent speed humps.
yes.
I think also, we discussed this a little bit in the finance committee meeting. I think there are, and I've had subsequent conversations with the borough manager. There are a number of other places in addition to the potential savings where we could kind of cobble together little bits of savings to be able to do both. To do the two worst sections, to also not compromise the speed humps, as Mr. Fosbrink had mentioned, to be able to do those as well and still be in line with our budget. There are a couple things. I am happy to go through them if details are important, but there are a couple things that are sort of under budget and sort of over revenue of what we expected that would enable us to meet this. But what I also want to say is I think as a council, we have to respond to concerns brought forth to us by our residents, period. I think as a council, we have an obligation to hear them, investigate them, and make a determination. That doesn't necessarily mean we do exactly what they say every single time. However, when we have legitimate concerns, and one of the things that we talked about both in Finance Committee, and I defer to Mr. Fosbrink if he wants to talk about this as chair as Public Works, is how we create a process when a resident comes to us with a serious and legitimate issue that needs to be addressed, that is not a budgeted issue. Because we have two of those coming down the pike right now that have been active and that we discussed in Public Works. And so I think whether we do this or we don't do this is one issue, but I think as a council, it's incumbent upon us to develop a process whereby we can evaluate these concerns and make a decision based on new information.
Sorry, President Martin, may I just respond to that? Just, I hear what you're saying, and just to be clear, that in the 4 years that I've been on this council has always responded to residents' concerns, and we have taken action when appropriate. So I don't want that to be misconstrued that we've never done that.
I'm brand new on council. I can't say what's been done or not done, but I think it's important for us to do. That's all I'm saying.
All I wanted to mention is I too looked at the budget and I see many places where there's extra money, it looks like now. So I didn't like that this is an either or, either the speed bumps or the repair of this. I don't like that, given that there's a whole big budget out there. Thank you.
Councilman Bacon, he's been.
Let's have Mr. Lawrence go first.
Seems to me that we found the answer. The main concern is how you're going to pay for it. I think one thing is the fact that we spent, 20 minutes on this is evidence that we concern ourselves with the interests of our residents. And there's no way you can develop a process to fix every last minute thing that's going to come down the pike, no pun intended. Actually, that's in Churchill and Wilkes, so it doesn't matter. And by the way, can I point out, you're from Pittsburgh. No one else would use the term slippy.
Good job. Thank you.
I just couldn't let that slide there, buddy. No, it seems to me that the question has settled itself. No, we do not want to start making exceptions to our the processes that analyze which roads are paved. Otherwise, we get on a terribly slippy slope and do favors for our buddies. We're not doing that in this case. We've reevaluated, we spent time. If the money's there when this is done, let's make an agreement tonight. All things go well, we'll find the money to fix it. If in a month you come back and say, we're now over budget, we'll reevaluate it in a month. Can we go that?
Sounds good.
It's done with?
Yeah.
Councilman Baoki,
Yes.
I thought you were waving.
No.
Okay, sorry.
That was.
Yeah.
Just
Saw that one.
to make
Thought there were
sure
both of you.
that we are indeed ready for this, as Mr. Lawrence said, in a month or whenever. I just want to make sure we all pay attention to this, that we all distribute new findings on this as timely as we can as the paving starts, and that we have at least some sort of general plan in terms of priority, not an either and or, just a order of operations in mind, so that we are able to respond to this quickly. Because if it happens that we get, new information from the paving folks a day after the Public Works Committee meets, which could quite conceivably happen, I just want to make sure we have whatever is in place so that we can act on it informed and appropriately and within whatever structures we have to do so.
Conversations with Mr. Brett about this, and as he actually alluded to, I think there actually is a proposed order, and that would be if all, assuming that we have to stop at some point, it would be the roads as awarded in the bid, the speed humps because we're still continuing to deal with asphalt. And then as much of the concrete on Decatur as can be done within the originally allotted budget for the paving.
Good. Okay. Mr. Bacon?
I'll ask, is that something that we should have a motion of understanding or something about so that we have that sort of pre-approved to get this done without?
That's
falling
not
out of business?
necessary in this case. This is a one-time thing.
Well, so it will be in the minutes.
Okay. Thank you.
That ends my report.
Thank you. Moving on to borough property, Mr. Bacon.
Thank you, Madam President. First item tonight is the invasive species resolution. This is included in everyone's packet tonight. And this is essentially the same that we saw back in, I think it may have been March or April at this point, when I kind of threw alarm to slow on this and make sure that we are fully committed to it, including from a budgetary sense before we go forward. I think we have seen that a lot of these efforts are less expensive than maybe feared in my part. And I think everyone's had time to digest it. I also think a good way to read this is that it is a framework of priorities for the very long term, if not indefinitely ongoing fight against invasive species. An example of that being that it says we are committed to the eradication of the listed species, including but not limited to, because who knows what's next. But I think by passing this resolution, we are saying that we are committed to this. It has the order of operations for our priorities. So first priority is areas near residential properties, then public lands, then other borough-owned properties. So I really think it covers everything. And I would ask if we are all comfortable moving this forward to a formal vote.
Are there any issues?
No problem.
I don't have any problems with it.
All right, thank you. We will get that set up as a resolution. The next item, everyone should have a, I believe, rather large fold-out diagram. This is authorizing the borough engineer to prepare and advertise for bids for the lower level pool facility renovations project. So this is an LSA grant funded project. And those of you, which I assume probably all of us, are familiar with the current layout of the pool, restrooms, and locker areas, which is Spartan, to put it extremely nicely. And this is a huge, huge upgrade as far as just quality of access, quality of experience, and just the number of available facilities for people. So we do have diagrams of the current state if anyone wants to see that as well. But we reviewed this fully in committee, I think maybe 2 months ago, and we got final drawings since then. From Mr. DeCosta and Mr. Baoki, and I believe we're all comfortable with whatever limited changes there may be. We couldn't really find any. So I ask that we be ready to authorize preparing bids for this so we can get this moving as soon as possible after the pool closes. Does anyone have any questions? Any comments? One thing I will also point out in particular, I think is a nice change, is in the middle area, you can see that there is now a family and family such kind of private restroom in what I think is currently a janitorial closet in the middle, and just tremendous upgrades to all facilities. So we will have that as an authorization vote in the next meeting.
One comment, this is being paid for by a grant.
Thank you. And then I do two just small general report items for info. One of them kind of borough property adjacent, just FYI, the Fliver bus is currently out of service for probably quite some time, looking like a week or more, just due to general issues with the vehicle. So if you hear anything about residents on that, that's about all we know at this time. It's ongoing issues with that vehicle. And finally, on Monday, I'm going to attend a meeting from the Lincoln Highway Heritage Corridor over in Greensburg. Just hoping to find out any information on how we might be able to better highlight that historical part of Ardmore going through our borough. It seems they may have some options for various signage or historical marker replacement beyond just highlighting the one next to Yost Boulevard.
Since you're attending that meeting, there's that marker. I'd like to see if we can remove that marker and preserve it someplace here on our property. Lincoln Highway marker.
On Yost
Yep.
and Ardmore, I will inquire. And that concludes borough property.
Thank you, Mr. Bacon. Moving on to planning and zoning, Mr. DeCrosta.
Thank you, Madam President. So we're getting closer to the time that we need to make a decision on the request to rezone block 300-H-160, which is the Drews property. We've all discussed it at this point. I think it's been advertised as needed. I think we should put it on the agenda for the next meeting to make that final decision about moving it from S1 to B1. Does anyone disagree? I think we were given 91 days to respond, so that will be pushing it up against that. Any problems with that? Okay, thank you. We also had a request from the Nice family to subdivide two different lots. There are maps in your package. They're really tough to read. But they're basically dividing both of these lots to create more taxable property. So the Planning Commission has recommended that we approve it. I would recommend that we move it to the agenda as well for the next meeting, unless anyone has a problem with that. Okay, great. And I do want to kind of get the temperature of council regarding this gentleman's interest in creating a storage facility area down at the Adam Smasher site. I'd like to communicate with him, that we're either on board or we're not, just so he can continue his research and moving forward. So I just was wondering if I could get some feedback. Yes, Ms. Lewis?
Just a point of clarification. Why does he need something from us? Does he need a zoning change? What's the issue?
No issue. He just wants to know that he has our support before he goes into all of the research and everything that he wants to do. Sorry, go ahead.
Just for clarification, the property's in the S2 zoning district, so the self-storage facility use would be a conditional use. So it'll go through the conditional use process, and so I think
Thank you. That answered my question. Thank you. Yep.
Right, I forgot about that.
Yeah. Thanks, Jay.
It's zoned properly. We would just have to approve the use of it. Yes.
But it seemed like he was sort of asking us, in general, was there a goodwill of feeling towards this before he invested more money in the environmental studies, is what I thought I heard.
Correct, yeah. And Action Housing did the same thing the last time they came to us to make sure they weren't doing this in vain. So, yeah.
I have no problem with it. I think
Is
it's great.
Is he looking for anything from the borough? Sorry, is he looking for any kind of tax abatement or development assistance?
Well, during our conversation last week, in terms of the Atom Smasher and wanting us to preserve it, he talked about maybe helping him out. He wasn't very specific in what that meant. But he did say something in terms of, maybe a couple feet here, a couple feet there. We won't know until, he has a plan in place. He brought up the Atom Smasher before I did. It's sort of been a thing of council recently to try to preserve this. We can't move it. It's too expensive. Nobody wants it. He said that museums and universities might be interested. Nobody wants it, but we want it. It's a symbol of our borough and in the past and our history. So if he's willing to help us out with that, I think that's a huge, and plus these facilities, like you said, they're quiet. They look pretty nice. They're usually well maintained and secure, as you all said. So, yeah, Mr. Fosbrink.
Uh, my gut reaction is, and I don't mean to discourage him in any way, but I'm just not a huge fan of storage facilities for our borough. I think this came up a few years ago in relation to some other properties on Ardmore Boulevard. But that's just my gut feeling and feedback without knowing much. I'd like to continue to talk with you, Joe, about it.
Yeah,
And I
sure.
can give you more feedback. as we
Happy
go,
to,
and
yeah.
Happy to be involved.
Yeah, I mean, just if I may respond to that, nobody wants that property. And, you know, it's going to waste. It looks horrible. And if someone's willing to take it on with all the environmental responsibilities for something that isn't damaging, I think that maybe we should consider a little more closely. Yes, Mr.
Yeah,
Lawrence?
I would just reiterate what you just said. I've been dealing with this since he bought this. It's almost 20 years. There's been many proposals coming in and out, some for apartments and things like that. They were abandoned because no one wants to live in an apartment down in, excuse me, that's not this most cozy space down there. This is a pretty benign use of that property. I mean, we're very close to having a truck, 18-wheeler training program down there. Well, that would have been, we were going for it. And if you think this is annoying, imagine all those trucks.
Right.
So I would encourage everyone to be a little open-minded on this. As far as the Atom Smasher, we've been trying for 20 years. It'd be nice if we could, even if you just pushed it on the side and let it sit for another 40 until somebody has the money, but it's the best we can do, I suspect. Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Lewis.
Again, new, just learning, but some of the things that I've seen happen in other places with these, you know, different uses or where there's concern about frontage or things like that is really around what seems like the final touches, but really can be baked into the project in terms of what the things are that people see, right? So all of those things, in my experience in other governments, can be negotiated, especially if he's looking for us to assist him with the smasher.
Yeah. And one of the issues he brought up too is in terms of signage to let people know where it is, because it is kind of hidden. The address is 801 Ardmore, but it's up the hill and behind the woods. So I told him about that. I said, you really need to come and look at it because it's, you know, so one of the things that we might be able to help him with is allowing him to put a sign somewhere or something like that so people know where it is or how to get to it. But yeah, in the end, you know, I just wanted to be able to express to him, like, you know, obviously we haven't voted on this yet. We don't know the specifics, but we're encouraging him to look at it further. Speaking.
I think overall it's an extremely appropriate use for that site because whether it is technically or not, the public is going to view that as a brownfield forever.
Exactly.
And I think that makes a lot of sense. The one thing that no one has mentioned is the Forest Hills forward plan for kind of expanding the retention pond down on Ardmore there and maybe eventually having a trail going up to connect somewhere near that site. So I think that's just something we should keep in mind. Maybe it winds up being a tiny easement on one end of it. I'm not entirely clear where the plans are to have something like that connect, but I believe it would involve that property. So that's one thing I think we should have in mind. But otherwise, it seems like a very nice alignment.
Okay, so I'll communicate to him that we discussed it and we'll move forward. Thank you. That's the end of my report.
Thank you. Moving on then to Public Works, Mr. Fosbrink.
Thank you, Madam President. I will be as brief as I can be tonight since we're running long. We have a motion to authorize the borough engineer to prepare and advertise for bids for the pollution reduction project at Forest Hills Park. Does anyone need a refresher on what that project is?
Yes, please.
Mr. Brett, can you tell us what that is, just so we're all aware again?
Yes, this is your first project for the pollution reduction plan for your MS4 permit. this authorizes the advertisement once the project's ready to bid.
The funding for this project is from where? General fund? And it's budgeted? Okay. Any, Mr. Bacon?
Just for a little bit more detail to clarify, I believe this is kind of beefing up basically drainage collection in the part of the main park that's sort of past the soccer field if you're looking at it from Ardmore.
Yeah, there's
Is that
a existing, one of your few retention ponds that was built for one of the park facilities. This enhances that and makes it function.
Issues, anyone? Any other questions? Okay, we'll move forward with that. The second item I'm asking to table be for a procedural reason so that we can get more information on that before we bring it back next month. Any questions? And that's all I have. Oh, I'm sorry. Engineers report, Mr. Brett, is there anything you need to?
Only one additional item to clarify the process that we typically go through in the communities for the road study. So we will update it for the budget for this year, and that'll be what's used for the budgeting process. You'll actually pick the roads, base bid and then some add alternates we typically put in. And then in the spring, the roads are re-reviewed. The ones that's on the list to see, has ones gotten worse or better, which is a little weird to say. But a lot of times, like this past winter, you had roads that got significantly worse in the March timeframe after the really deep freeze. And then by May, even though they were on the list that we bid as that alternates, the roads calm down in the spring, especially concrete roads. They'll look really bad. You'll have a lot of drainage coming out of them. And then by the time we get to spring, you ride on them, you're like, well, this winter that road was really bad. And now it's not too bad because they're not heaving. You don't get frost heave, things like that in the summer. So you do have that process. I do stress that you do have to have a little bit of flexibility in your road programs. It's not an exact science because of the freeze thaw cycles. We do end up with some streets that blow apart sometimes, and then, okay, they weren't a 2 or 3 in the fall, but now they may be a 1. They may go from a 4 to a 1 really quickly. And a lot of things impact that. If you get a water line break on a street, which you have a lot of, it may destroy a street downstream within the borough. And it may have been a perfectly good road till the water line broke and then it disturbed. It's the other thing we've learned over the last couple of years. Do have a lot of aging infrastructure from the other utilities. As we build your road programs, we want to partner with those other utilities and request that the water lines be replaced because it's bad to put money into paving and then the following year you got 6 patches on it because we had a lot of water line breaks. Other managers reached out to them. So I just, over the next few months, we want to enhance that discussion and bring them into it. We also want to reach out to the gas company and ask them if they're going to do something. Because what a lot of municipalities do is they'll pay for 50% and you pay for 50%. So you can stretch your budget further by working with the utility companies. Work on that with the Public Works Committee. Roads are a big thing for everybody. The residents really, especially concrete roads, when they go bad, obviously they go really bad. Have to be flexible because it is something that changes year to year as we go. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brett. Any other questions, Mr. Bacon?
Just a note for the rest of council to consider on the shared utility paving stuff. Avenue D would strike me as the example of something coming up where that is highly dependent on that. And it looks really bad right now, but it's because we're waiting for that opportunity.
That's all we have for Public Works tonight, Madam President.
Thank you, Mr. Fosbrink. Mr. Bioki, Public Safety, please.
Thank you, President Martin. I just have 2 items. One is a note that on Thursday, there's the fire truck demonstration on Sumner Avenue at 7 p.m. Hopefully that it will also be videoed to share that. Okay, we got that covered. The other item is a heads up from Chief Williams. It's going to be a budgetary item, so I just want to give everybody a heads up.
Mr. Borough, as we did not get a vehicle last year, like, this is the time again when we need to start thinking about ordering a vehicle for this year. Now, I can tell you that unfortunately, there's really no electric vehicles that seem to be in current production at this time. So my suggestion is to continue our trend of hybrid vehicles, and that would be a Ford Explorer, just like the ones we have out there now. A new Ford Explorer hybrid would replace the current gas vehicle that we have left out there in our fleet. So again, I was going to ask you if that would be something we can do for this 2026 year, and that would be the 2026 vehicle as well. But I need to order that at some point in time in the next month or two to get on that list. And again, I just want to try to get ahead of it so we can get it in the beginning of next year.
If the chief could explain for the new folks here, our standard operating procedure for replacing vehicles, there's a pattern here to it. If you could do it very quickly.
Generally, what we do is we replace vehicles one per year. We never want to get into a situation where we have to buy more than one. Last year, we did not buy one for this, well, it's actually for this particular year 2025. But generally, our normal rotation, we would replace a vehicle every year. So usually in this case, it's going to be the oldest vehicle in the fleet and the one that's probably lost or is the end of its warranty cycle. Because I additionally get an additional warranty on these vehicles to give us some protection throughout their lifetime with us. Now, fortunately, hybrid vehicles with the batteries do get an 8-year limit, but the rest of the car does not. And the way the warranties work now, it's not just mileage, it's engine hours. So idle hours also add up against our warranty. So we like to change these over so we don't get in the position where we get stuck with a large bill for a vehicle that we otherwise kept too long.
My question, thank you. My question is just, have we investigated or have we purchased them through the sort of SHACOG bidding cycle and or CoStars? But my understanding is SHACOG's a bit better.
We generally go through CoStars. Again, that price is always met by the person we deal with on a regular basis. Our price is always met to be the lowest throughout all the competition in the area. So we always get the per se best price from SHACOG and CoStar.
Thank you.
Just one question, Mr. Baker. Chief, what year would be the car that we would replace? Just wondering, what's the average life expectancy that we have on vehicles for
The
public?
current car we have is the one that's sitting out there at the end of the lot. It's a 2018. And a few years for that one. We kept that one a little longer.
I'm just wondering if it's average like 5 years that we're.
Generally, I try to keep it in that range because that's generally what the warranty is. Some cars last a little longer. We moved into that position because that was a previous code car. And we kept that one around because it had the lesser mileage at the time. The other car we sold off last year in municipal bid, as we'll sell this one off in municipal bid when we.
Generally, we have 8 vehicles in the.
Yes.
So 1 a year, every 8.
Right.
Yeah, one every. That's what I have.
Thank you, Mr. Bacon. I'm sorry, Mr. Bioki.
So close.
We put two B's
together,
together.
we
You're
do it.
starting to look alike too. I don't know what's happening. I've seen some gray hair there, Ian. I'm sorry. Is there any old business? Any new business?
Related to hair. Just noticing tonight, something I think we should consider for next year's schedule when we're building this is to avoid the national night out for any meeting schedules. As a note.
Mr. Fosbrink.
This is just a quick announcement that the 107th annual Bryn Mawr Farms Corn Roast will be coming up on Saturday, September 6th, which is the Saturday after Labor Day. It is one of our most wonderful events in the borough. And if you're not from the Bryn Mawr area, Borough Council, I'm sure you are all invited to come and enjoy. Chief, please invite the police department as well, 5 p.m. Woodside Road at Sylvan.
Thank you. Okay, if there's nothing else, I move to adjourn the meeting by acclamation. Are there any objections? Okay, it's adjourned.
Thank you.